You're listening to the Art of Greatness podcast, episode number 26. Welcome to the Art of Greatness podcast. My name is June Allen, your sister in service from juneallen.net. On this show, I empower non-white listeners to prioritize their racial wellness and emotional sobriety. The platform is for educational purposes, is based on my experiences, and is shared in good faith. Always consult your doctor, therapist, or licensed mental health professional before applying any of the suggestions given within this platform. The vision is to build a blackalicious life of empowerment so there can be peace. Now on with the show. Greetings family, it's June Allen here, and I am so excited for all of you today because I have got the most powerful session to share. I'm going to be speaking to an amazing sister called Faith Agugu, and she's going to be speaking to you guys all the way from Australia, and she's going to be sharing her wisdom, her knowledge about black mindfulness, about the spirituality of melanin. Just some really, really powerful things that I know that you're going to really enjoy. So without further ado, here's the interview with Faith Agugu. Enjoy. Okay, great. So Faith, it's so great to finally have you on the yard. Welcome to the Art of Greatness. For those of you that don't know Faith is an amazing holistic counsellor and healer all the way from Australia. So Faith, it's really, really great to have you on the show today. Yay! So yeah, just to give you all a bit of. Or do you want to tell the story about how we met? You tell the story about how we met.
Oh no, I think you tell it so much better.
Okay, so
I don't know what you want them to know.
Okay, so Faith and I remember seeing Faith in a recovery meeting, and there was just something about her. There was something about her that I just really, really liked. I'd never met Faith before, but I thought before the end of this meeting, I want to get this woman's number. And then when I heard you sharing and stuff in the meeting, I just thought, yeah, I just want to, and I've just got a thing. Whenever I see another black person in another recovery meeting, I kind of want to be friends with them. I want to get to know them, want to know who they are, sort of thing. So it was really nice when we spoke after the meeting and stuff. I just felt really, really calm around you. You had such a nice energy and everything. So I was really pleased that you were so open to chatting, and it didn't bother me that you lived in Australia and that you were only visiting. I thought, I don't care, I just thought this woman, I'd like what you're about. So yeah, no, it was really good. And then obviously, we sort of stayed in touch and everything. And then after that, we sort of, it's good. We've been in touch ever since. So it's just been really, really good to connect with you. And then obviously with this new business venture that you've got going on as well, it's a done deal really that I'm going to support you with it. And I just think, I really respect your work and your recovery process and everything. So it just made absolute complete sense that you come on and that I wanted to share, your experience and your hope and what you've got to offer with the listeners and stuff. So it's really great. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Great. I was going to say, you shared so beautifully and so eloquently about how we met. I wanted to share it from my perspective. And I just wondered how easy that was going to be for you to just receive that, because that was, for me, I was really inspired meeting you as well, seeing you in the meeting. I'm in Australia, so I don't see that many black people in recovery, so being in London, I just get really excited seeing like black women that are eloquent and clearly have a really strong, powerful recovery, so I heard you and a couple of other women and black women share, and to be honest, I was so hungry. I'm so hungry for black women in recovery. I don't even hear anyone else and I don't even see anybody else, so it's quite funny. After the meeting, when other people come to talk to me, I'm just kind of like, excuse me, I just want to talk to the sisters, so it's quite funny. So I was really, really excited that you came up to me, and for me, when you were coming up to me, I was just kind of hoping that I was just thinking, I want to be friends with this person. I hope that she asked for my number, because I was going to ask for yours anyway, but then you asked for mine. So I was just really excited. It's like, I really want to, whatever. The same way as you said, I didn't know how, but I knew that I wanted to connect with you. So that was really beautiful.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's really cool. That's really cool that you felt the same.
That's why I thought it was nice for you to hear it.
I've received it with love. Yeah, no, it was great. So tell us a little bit about your work. I know we're going to be talking a lot about mindfulness and how that relates to our experiences as Black people. So if you'd like to tell us a little bit about your work and how you got into it.
Yeah, I teach a regular meditation class here in Sydney, and I always say to people at the end of my class that my secret weapon is my 26 years of meditation practice. It's not something that people can see, because we live in a society where people do things to get recognition. So they do things that others can observe and they can get validated or praised with. But I think that having a mindfulness practice is this really quiet, strong process that kind of, for me, it builds us as people from the inside out. So people cannot quite put their finger on what it is about you, but they know something's different. So what I loved is you said, you felt calm. So I don't really do anything or say anything, but there's a sense, and I think that's what the secret weapon is, that sense of the work has been done from the inside out. And that's exactly the same premise that we have in recovery. We know that it's an inside job, and I think meditation is one of those beautiful secret weapons that if you practice, there's something different about you, and others know there's something different about you, even if they can't put their finger on it. And I think that's what's really beautiful about it.
Wow, that's such a beautiful description. It's such a beautiful description, because it's true, because I didn't know what it was about you that I liked, but I think you're right. I think it is that sense of calm, because meditation does do that. Meditation really does do that. I've always kind of struggled with meditation, which is one of the reasons, and another reason why I wanted you to come on and talk about it, because I think as Black people, meditation can be really hard, because we're still we're living in a system that is still very abusive, at an emotional level, a psychological level. And so just from conversations that I've had with other Black people and for myself, slowing down and being still is actually quite painful. So how do you work with that? How would you work with that?
It's so interesting, because I feel like something like mindfulness, it's been kind of hijacked by the Western philosophy, and it's probably been hijacked by, I don't want to say, not necessarily just white, but there's almost kind of like that appropriation of mindfulness that is, it's been sanitized and been packaged, just to suit a really white audience, And I think that what I find interesting about it is that for a white audience to get the concept of mindfulness, to really get it, they have to kind of jump through quite a few hoops, because it's against a lot of their natural beliefs and philosophies, just natural ways of being. What I find when I work with Black people is that it's quite intuitive and it's quite an instinctive place for us to go. But first we've got to get past all the noise of the internalized racism and the collective construct about who we're meant to be in the world. But I find for us, when I do any spiritual practices with people of color, I'm always surprised how quickly they get it. There's something intuitive and instinctive about that type of work that resonates very deep for us. It's almost like we've got less to unlearn,
Wow,
so because there's a natural power. Do you understand? And I think that we struggle with it because we're trying to come from it almost through the lens of a white construct still, but we don't need to. So when we connect with, because we connecting with ourselves and connecting with source and connecting with higher power, I feel it's a very natural process for us, and I feel like we're very close to that. And I feel like in the Western construct, they've thrown away that for such a long time. It's like they're having to relearn it, For us, there's much less relearn. So I'm not sure if I've explained that very clearly, but what I go through, because most of the people I work with in Australia is I work a lot with Indigenous people, and wherever I feel lucky, I work a lot with with Black people as well. And whenever I'm doing any mindful process with Black people or intuitive people, there's a sense of just getting it. I think that I feel like we're a lot more closer to that internal place deep inside, and the book, the 12-step and Big Book will talk about that. We're rocketed to that fourth dimension. I think as Black people, we're just a lot closer to that. And what might put us off around mindfulness is that the people we see doing it don't tend to look like us. Yeah, so it feels like it's alien to. That's not really our thing, which is bullshit, I believe. Because I believe that we are inherently a lot more close to spirit, just the way that we are, because it's just the way we communicate and the way that we are with each other and the way we are with our environment. And we know with Indigenous people, there's a sense of them connection with their environment and source. They just get it. So there's less hoops for them to jump over to kind of get to that connection, And I believe that we falsely believe that it's not our thing because we don't see people that look like us propagating it or promoting it or teaching it or sharing it, So that's what I think. So I think that I feel excited that more and more Black people are becoming more aware of this and connecting with this, And I believe the same way I believe that 12-step is a massive tool for our liberation. I believe that mindfulness, whatever you want to call it, meditation, mindfulness, is the same thing. And I say that because, again, from a very Western perspective, it's very unfashionable to kind of say meditation so much. They call it mindfulness because it's been standardized, and they've washed away a lot of the spirituality around it. So they've made it more digestible for Western minds, and that kind of annoys me. But I get that that's the way it's going. So when I teach mindfulness, I'm not afraid to say this comes from a spiritual root, and I get that it's much easier for you to digest it in this thing, but its source is from a spiritual place, So
Wow, that's so powerful that you say that. And I have heard other teachers talk about the spirituality of melanin and about how there is something about melanin being more connected to higher power, nature, source, all of that kind of stuff. And maybe that's kind of linked to what you're saying, and
that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still, one of the things reasons why I'm so fascinated by this, because there is a part of me that kind of understands what you're saying, but I still feel a bit disconnected. I'm still learning as part of the the dismantling process. To kind of get reconnected back to that self. And like you said, it is about it's about unpacking all of the noise, unpacking all of the trauma, unpacking all of the indoctrination and the pain and all of that kind of stuff, and just returning to the source. And so hearing you talk about it, I kind of got goosebumps hearing you say that, because it is very, very powerful. And to know that I've just got to keep practicing it and keep doing the work to make sure that there will come a time where I do feel reconnected to that spiritual source, and I think maybe that's the reason why a lot of people, why Black people are so so spiritual, so religious and stuff. We're kind of like the most religious people on the planet, I think. Depending on whatever religion you choose to, but I think we understand at a core level that there is something about
that connection.
Yes, there is that connection, and so we're looking for different ideologies, different doctrines, and stuff that kind of meet that need. But it kind of making that connection between that and racism has been a challenge, because the imagery that we see around spirituality and religion is very white.
The white Jesus,
the white Jesus and everything. I think all of that stuff has been very, very sanitized, and these are all ways to kind of magnifies the confusion for us as Black people to be able to return to that source, because at the end of the day, it's not about white Jesus, and if I think about it as well, I think that black people are the only people on the planet that don't have, spiritual or religious deities that look like them. And I think that has a huge impact on our psyche. It's another way
absolutely.
It just builds that confusion. So I think it is important to keep doing this work and to raise that awareness around how the indoctrination and how racism actually continues to keep us disconnected from our core self, because we are ultimately, we're little cups of God. We are our higher power. But I think it's easy for us to be disconnected from that while we're dealing with, a lot of the way that racism impacts spirituality and religion and all of that kind of stuff. So, it was really, really good to hear you talking about that. Really, really good. In terms of trauma as well, could be racial trauma, it could be childhood trauma. There was some great stuff that I read on your website about how a lot of your work is about using mindfulness and meditation to kind of heal trauma. Now, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think for a lot of us hold our trauma in our body, and for most of us, we first experienced the trauma through our bodies, whether we were physically abused or neglected or whatever it was. The experience of that was a felt sense through our bodies. So most of us live in a state of being out of our bodies and not connecting to our bodies. So through the mindfulness, a lot of the things I do with people is just initially to get them to be in a place that it's safe to be back in their body. So even just that simple thing as breathing, but staying in your body while you're breathing changes everything. And for a lot of people, it's like the first time they've actually kind of embodied their body, because all the messages has been, this is not a safe place. And, how conflicting it is, and how, desolate and barren and how lonely to be if the place that we inhabit is not even safe. If that place that is ultimately our own, which is our body, is ultimately not safe, how disempowering, how lonely, is it being walking in this journey, in this life. So what I notice for most people is that their consciousness sits about 2 to 3 feet ahead of them. So there's always a sense that they're rushing through the next thing, so they, wherever they are, they're already moving on to the next thing. So there's always that sense of that. So for me, I use mindfulness with people, especially around trauma, is to bring them back and to get them to stay in their body and just experience whatever's going on. And that can be initially just frightening. So, in my work, my job is to hold that space and to let them know that I'm there holding the space for them while they start to reconnect with their body. And it's like they're in darkness, kind of searching for parameters and searching for what is safe. Nobody's told them this, no one's taught them this, they've never experienced themselves as safety. What most of us do in trauma is we embody that trauma, whether it's racism or whatever, and we continue to be the perpetrators. We go through life continuing to be the perpetrators and re-offend against ourselves in all sorts of ways, whether that's the negative mind talk where we just repeat the speech of our perpetrators, which most of us do. And that's what I think one of the most powerful things in mindfulness is sometimes it's the first time that we're quiet enough to hear the bullshit we're feeding ourselves every moment of the day. And when we stay with it and uncover and unpack it, we realize it's not even our own words. There are the words of our perpetrators. So we're just continuing to re-traumatize and punish and use ourselves with, So I think mindfulness is so powerful because for me, how it happened was exactly that. When I started to go deep in my mindfulness practice, I realized that the words, I was so harsh on myself. It was like I was just flogging myself, you're fucked, you're this, you're that. It was 24/7. And when I heard how I was speaking to myself, I was horrified. I was so deeply saddened too. Just thinking, where do I have to go if in my own head that is what I'm hearing? So I'm saying to the people around me, when they validate me, I'm going, what are you talking about? You must be lying. So beautiful relationships I'm sabotaging because there's something wrong with you. If you are telling me something different about me, there must be something wrong with you. So I'm sabotaging opportunities, I'm sabotaging relationships. That's why I'm going through life. And when I really heard myself and really heard those voices, I just felt such sadness and compassion for that little girl. You know, and I remember, you know, through the inner child work too, I remember holding that little girl and just making that commitment to her that I would never, ever contribute to that, to perpetrate that pain and continue all of that stuff that she'd experienced before. I would not be an accomplice to that, you know, ever again. And I remember when I made that decision and that commitment, I just, you know, and for me, everything changed from that point, you know, and that was a direct result through mindfulness, you know, and getting aware, Yeah,
tell us a little bit more about you talked about inner child work. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, look, I think inner child work, I would say, it's probably one of my speciality, you know, like, you know, if I say to my clients, what are the things that they, you know, love about my work, or what are the things they come back for, what are the things they found most useful, the inner child work is always repeated, you know, and again, it's, for me, I think it's because of my own personal experience with that, you know, and exactly all that stuff that I said, you know, the sadness that I felt from being that person that was continuing abusing myself and, you know, punishing myself and all of that, and making that commitment not to, and then just going through the process, because the first time I did my inner child process, the first proper process I did with inner child, my inner child was so angry, and the thing is, it seems like one of those really weird things. You think inner child concept, you know, how's that? But I swear, when I sat down and connected with that inner child, it was like she just wanted to just run up to me and just scratch my. She was so angry, and she was so angry because, one, I'd neglected her. Two, I continued the abuse because of my personal dialogue and the way I treated myself, and how hard I was on myself, and how uncompromising I was with myself, and how unforgiving I was with myself, and how punishing. All of those things. She was so angry, and it was just like, for me, I know it's funny because it's an Australian word, but she felt like a feral child, and I felt like I was just grabbing this feral child and just holding her tight while she was just kicking and screaming and hitting me. That's how it felt, you know. And even talking about it now, it feels so visceral. I can just remember it, and it just had such an impact on me that I just felt so committed that I had to complete this healing, and then I had to help other women to come out, because it just the thought that so many women live like this, and especially black women, I think it's more intensified. I think we have a history of being abused, and it's kind of normal, you know, like I can kind of imagine people on a plantation, and it's public that you see, you see people, you see your father, you see your child, you see being physically abused, you internalize that. It's such a hard place to come to then, you know, like then go, oh my God, I'm still doing this to myself, even hundreds of years later, when this is not happening for most of us anymore, you know. So I just think it's just one of the base foundation in healing, you know, and I really encourage everyone, if you get the chance to do some of this work, you know, really look at it. And I, you know, when I'm in London, probably in October, I'm going to do an inner child, you know, work. And also on my website, there's a blog on inner child, and if it's not on there today, it will be on there in a few days by the time people listen to this. I was rereading it, and it's a very, very simple explanation of the inner child and what it represents, and I think anybody could grasp the concept from this blog. You know, so by the time this goes live, I'll double check that it's up there, and, you know, I'd love your listeners to explore this, because I think they'll get quite a lot of, you know, I think the concept explained in a very, very simple way, I think they'll understand it. Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely make sure that the links and stuff are in the show notes so listeners can get hold of that. I mean, what you've just said, Faith, is just so powerful, and I think that, you know, it's so easy for a lot of black people to focus on the external stuff, what's happening with us in terms of racism, focusing on what white supremacy is doing, look what this white person's done, look at the police are doing, and all of that kind of stuff. And because it is so savage, you know, and a lot of us are traumatized by it, it's easy to kind of get stuck in that pattern of looking at what they're doing and trying to control that. But the power really is in what you've said. The power is in doing the internal work. The power is in that's how you really empower yourself, by looking at, you know, how we've internalized that stuff. You know, I say this to people all the time.
you know, as black people, we can't expect to have 200 or 300 years worth of chattel slavery and trauma, and then you know, none of our ancestors went to therapy after all of that, you know, and then expect that we're going to be okay. That is going to impact the way that we take care of ourselves. It's going to impact the way that we speak to ourselves. It's going to impact the way that we raise our children. It's going to impact the way that we love each other. And because a lot of that stuff that was going on for such a long time, it's such a vicious way, you know, and it's so painful for a lot of people to do this work, but it is so liberating, because that's how you get your power back. And just hearing you talk about the inner child stuff as well, I'm doing some work at the moment around inner child work with my therapist. And a few years ago, when I hadn't been in recovery that long, I actually made myself a little black rag doll for that reason. And I've had moments where I just couldn't be around the black doll. I couldn't be around it, because it was painful to kind of sit with those feelings, and to sit with the fact that I know that this little girl is upset. And my inner child was pissed off as well, really pissed off, because I again had neglected her. I did the same thing to my inner child that my parents did to me. You know, my parents were there physically, but they were emotionally absent. You know, they weren't able to, and that's because they weren't taught, and it's because, you know, my parents are from Jamaica, and, you know, there was the slave plantation, you know, and then, you know, the rest is history. So I understand that dynamic, and how, you know, as black women we abandon ourselves, because a lot of us haven't done the internal work to reclaim who we are, and that's how we really begin to take back our power, by self-parenting, by learning how to reparent. That's where my recovery is. My recovery isn't in abstinence. My recovery is in nurturing. You know, I've got to learn how to do, you know. I remember when the first couple of years I was in recovery, you know, they talk a lot about abstinence and all the rest of it. And I'm like, yeah, I can do abstinence. You know, deprivation's my middle name. You know, I can not do and not do and not do. My issue is nurturing, doing the top lines, doing the self-care, doing the inner child work, doing the stuff that brings me joy. And when I've done that inner child stuff, oh my God, the joy. Like, my inner child is just so happy just to be seen. My inner child is so happy to be heard, and to feel like I matter. And then once you start doing that work, once I've been doing that work, it's like I just can't allow other adults or white supremacy. I can't keep quiet, because there's a new sense of, I feel empowered, and there's a new sense of self-respect that comes with an authenticity and integrity that comes when you start nurturing that inner child. Because and also I discovered a couple of months ago in a therapy session, I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, my inner child is my higher power. So when I disrespect my inner child, I'm disrespecting God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because
absolutely.
Yeah, I was just like, that was such an aha moment. I was like, oh my God, I'm disrespecting my inner child is God. You know,
that's really interesting. Because my take on that is the inner child is the gateway to God, and that's that's just semantics, but that's my strong experience, is the inner child is a gateway to God. So we're abusing and neglecting and all of that, we're neglecting God. You know, even to put the way, we're neglecting us, like, more than anything else. We're neglecting and rejecting the divinity within us. Yeah, you know,
100%. And then also when you know, if we have that pattern of self-neglect, we're going to end up in relationships that are neglectful. You know, that's just how it works, because you're going to attract what you are. So as soon as, you know, for anybody out there that's listening, that's thinking about why their relationships don't work, and why they keep ending up in situations where people, you know, treat them like doormats, we have to first start looking at how we treat ourselves. Are we keeping our own promises? You know, are we keeping our promises? Remember, Dr. Venus talks a lot about that. She did a live stream about that, and I love that. She talked about, if you want to start really building an abundant life, you've got to start keeping your promises. Keep your promises to your child.
Yeah, it's simple.
It's really simple.
It's so simple.
It's really, really
not
simple.
easy, but simple.
Exactly, exactly. It's a new practice. It's a new thing that we have to learn. And also it's about compassion. Having compassion for that inner child, because we've come from an environment or a history that's been very, very abusive, and I think a lot of us, because that history has been so abusive and so painful, that we've lost as human beings, we've lost the art as black people of how to be tender with each other, how to be kind, how to be compassionate. It's that thing of I remember I hear black people say this all the time to their children. Oh, you got shoes on your feet and you got clothes and you got a roof over your head. That's enough.
Should be enough.
That's enough. And it isn't. It isn't.
No.
And I think it is because they've not been, we've not been taught. We've had that harshness with each other and about who we are, and we don't know how to be anything different.
Yeah, we just do what we see, and that's the bottom line, isn't it? We know, like, through therapy, you know that in psychology, that it's that thing of you can't tell people what to do. People will model what they see.
Exactly.
So generation, we see that harshness, we see the clap over clap around the ears, and we even hear people still make a joke about it. Like black people are, when they see white kids get away with so much, I was like, oh, if that was a black person, there would be, swiped across, and we still think that that's funny, So I think we have to kind of change a lot of that. And I think that that's learned behaviour. And I think that's learned through what we've seen done to us, as opposed to a natural way of us being, So I think through your process, what I love about your process is that when people go through the discharging phase, I think as a race, as a people, we're just beginning to kind of even see what the discharge is, We haven't even started to really do it. And I think that's what, hopefully, our next, like your daughter, their generation are going to be fully discharging all of the crap.
Exactly.
And that makes me excited, It really gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's, this is one of the reasons why I work so hard, and like you, why it's difficult and as painful as it is to get this stuff out there. It's important for us to keep talking about this stuff, as black women. It's important to keep talking about this stuff and offering solutions. I hear a lot of people talking about what racism is. I hear a lot of people talking about why racism is here. But, we need to talk about the how. How are we going to do it? And I think that, recovery and, a lot of the work that you're doing and the stuff that I'm doing is the how. This is how we get our power back. This is how we nurture our children. This is how we nurture ourselves. This is how we love in relationships. And I think recovery is an amazing, place to start around a lot of that stuff, So next week we've got you're doing an event. You're actually doing an event. Talk to us about the event.
It's so funny. Can I just add one more thing before we move on to the next thing?
Yes, go for it.
Like just the stuff around, as black people, I feel like we're still stuck in that paternalistic thing where we're still expecting the white master to do it for us. And I get a little bit frustrated when I see people post things on Facebook about, things happening in black society or black community, and they say, why is this not on mainstream media? It's like we're still looking for validation. We're still looking for them. And I just say, you know what? Like exactly what you said. Stop looking for them to feed us or fix us, to do anything for us. We are more than capable. Come back in and just like exactly what you say, exactly what your work is, and do the internal work. And that's what I would love to empower us to do. I don't want to get caught up in what they've done to us. I want to get connected with the power that we have and connect with that and how we can heal ourselves so we can move on. That's what I'm interested in.
And they're not going to do anything to heal us. That's the trap. That's the trap. We
know that from history. Even when we talked about the suffragette movement, the men did not go and give the women emancipation. They had to fight for it. They're not going to come and give it to us. They're not interested because they're not impacted.
It benefits them.
So we should keep going, so stop wasting our energy going, but why aren't they into it? Why don't they care? Forget that rhetoric and forget wasting our energy and just focus the energy back on healing each other, supporting each other, nurturing each other back to health. That's what I want my focus and my energy to be on.
Yeah, we have to take responsibility for how the internal stuff. That's where it's going to come from. Yeah. That's where it's going to come from. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, 100%
and the responsibility.
agree.
And I wanted to, like, responsibility is not about shame, because I think sometimes people think about you have to take responsibility, and sometimes people can read that. I'm not saying that you're saying that, but sometimes I know some people can read that as, oh, you know, we're taking blame. It's like, you know what? It's not about blame. It's about power.
Yes.
It's about empowerment. I don't need to wait for that person to give it to me. I'm going to claim it because it's my birthright.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that's what I want for my brothers and sisters of colour, you know. We don't need anything from them. We need to just, you know, reclaim what's ours.
Yeah. But I actually think that dynamic is it comes from a place of trauma, I believe. Yeah. It's that, you know, that kind of the immaturity, you know, that the system has been set up to keep us emotionally immature.
Absolutely.
So we keep looking to white mummy and daddy to save us, and that kind of learned helplessness, all those conversations. It's all that.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think the empowerment is for us to kind of forget about what they're doing and just look to each other and to ourselves and our higher power. So as to the way forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Like your work says, you know, it's not in their interest for us to be emancipated, especially emotionally. It is not in their interest. It's not in the system's interest. So I think we just need to just hopefully. I would like to see us get to the place where we stop looking to the system to emancipate us. You know, that's what my ultimate vision for our community.
I think people do want solutions, though. I think that black people are tired. Black people are tired, and I think. You know, also there's the frustration and you know, about seeing people being abused, and I think that comes from, again, they're frustrated and please stop killing. You know, it's that. But it's like
absolutely.
There's got to be that.
It's like
that
taking on David and Goliath, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel like this mammoth that you're going to try and fight. You know, it's exhausting, and I see that here with Indigenous community. It's so overpowering for them because they're such a small community that it's this massive giant that they're like trying to bite the feet, and the giant can't even feel anything. You know. It's very frustrating and overwhelming.
But it's nice to know there's a solution. It's good to know that there is another way, and that we do have the power, and we just got to keep doing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. We've just got to keep doing the work now. So we can pass it on. It might not happen in my lifetime. I've accepted it might not happen in my lifetime. But I'm doing the work now so my daughter can take the baton when I'm gone.
And
you know, and also give it to other people. Yes. It's got to be about legacy. It's got to be about legacy. You know? So tell us about next week. Tell us about next week.
Okay. So next week is my workshop, Living Mindfully in 2018, which is I'm very excited about. So last year I was in Sydney, I was in London exactly at the same time, and I did a workshop called Ignite Your 2017, and there was a big deal last year about 2017 because it was the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. So there was a lot of energy astrologically and in numerology about the significance of that 1 year, because it was a 1 year big year beginning. So I did a beautiful workshop, and you know, the workshop was actually in Winchester, and it actually sold out, you know, and I got very inspired to do it again. So I actually did it when I was in London as well. So I did it in Winchester and London, and I also did one when I got back to Sydney. So a few people just asked me if I would do another one, you know, while I was there this time. So this workshop is for that reason. And I think that there's something quite special about a new cycle, whether it's the beginning of a new month or a new day or a new year, that, you know, as human beings, even if we failed before, it's like we get this renewed energy and hope to try again, you know. So there's something about sitting down at the beginning of the year and taking stock of the year gone by, which is what we're going to do. We're going to take stock of the year gone by. And I'm very, very strict about us not shaming ourselves. And it's not about us looking back and saying, oh, well, you know, all these promises I made that I didn't do. It's not about that. It's about looking back at some key areas of 2017. And for most of us, we may not even have noticed those, but taking the time to do that. and then looking at areas that we ourselves let ourselves down, and then looking at areas where there were, our strength really pushed through or really showed through, and then consciously making the decisions of what we're going to take with us into 2018. And that's what it ties into mindfulness, because a lot of us live in very autopilot.
Yeah.
So every day we wake up and we just repeat the same thing. There's not much intentionality, or awareness about what we're going to do. So by being mindful at the beginning of the year and setting some intentions about the quality of awareness, and I think also the quality of ourselves that we want to bring into the year, I think it's very powerful, and it's funny just thinking about this. There was somebody I was talking to, the other day, and they talked about how much shame they had. There was actually someone who did my course last year, and that person admitted to me that they didn't do any of the things that they said they were going to do, and they felt a lot of shame. And what I feel like is shame is such a debilitating emotion for us, because from a place of shame, it's like we're immobilized to actually take any steps, So one of the things I like doing in my workshop is to first identify where there is shame around, where we didn't take action that we promised ourselves we'd do, and discharge that, so that we can start from a clean slate, from a higher vibration, So as we have when we get a new 24 hours, we've got an opportunity to start again. So do we have another year. It doesn't matter what we didn't do last year, and how we think we felt. This is a new beginning, and I invite us all to approach it with some love and some compassion for ourselves, so we can move, get new tools, and it's that thing is, when I know better, I'll do better. So I want us to keep thinking that, and sometimes the knowing is not just from the head, it's got to be from the head to the heart. So sometimes we may know here, but we don't know here yet, And I say we keep repeating until we know here. Okay, so if you haven't done it yet, it's because you don't know here yet. So I say to people, be gentle with yourselves. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it until one day it drops into here, and you will know that you are worthy and special and amazing enough for you to show up for yourself. So when you sit down on the cusp of a year and you say, this is what I'm going to do for yourself, you love yourself enough that you're going to actually follow through. And sometimes that takes time. So I say to people, be kind and gentle with yourself. It happens when it happens. And you'll get there when you get there. And that's it, Because I think we want to rush to criticize ourselves and give ourselves a hard time. And I really, really just keep stressing over again, this is not about that. Because all that does is push us back into more shame and fear. And that debilitates us and pushes us further away from this greatness, as you say, especially if we're talking about black people. That just gets us stuck in our trauma, stuck in our pain, stuck in the collective construct about us being useless, worthless people, and I want us to come out of that and learn first and foremost to be gentle and kind, and to really accept our humanity, understand that we have really big things that we're battling through, bigger than a lot of other groups of people, so, when they talk about that privilege thing, when they talk about other people having, a head start, we're really behind the eighth board in a lot of things, and we have to remember that. We have to afford ourselves that level of kindness and gentleness, and come from that place when we're doing this work, and I really believe that very strongly.
Gosh, you're so right. You're so right, about the kindness thing and everything. And, as you were talking, I was thinking, there's a lot of stuff around at the moment where people are talking about, particularly for entrepreneurs, about, plan this and plan that. But nobody really talks about being as intentional about their self-care and about how they look after themselves. And I think this is something that really does need to happen, because, you can get caught up in the whole workaholic side of doing the work thing. But one of the things that that I'm really excited about attending, the workshop next week is for that reason, to start really thinking about how I can be more mindful in my work, and to prioritize my self-care, and to also, bring my higher power more into my business, my spiritual practices more into my business, because all of that stuff really, I'm a human being, and, I've run away from doing this work. For years I ran away from doing this work because I hadn't yet handed it over to my higher power, to just really think about that in a way that, just to be reminded that I do need to be kind to myself and to be gentle to myself, and to remember that, my higher power is in charge, and that we can hand that stuff over, all the stuff that we're afraid of, be it in relationship or be it, just accept, that whole thing around self-acceptance, like you were saying before, is a frightening thing, especially when you're not used to being that connected to yourself. It's very scary, and it can be quite a painful process. So being able to learn some tools and to understand the whole concept of self-compassion for Black people and for our process and how we have to really learn to be more gentle and stuff is very comforting. And I think that the workshop, is going to be a very powerful. It's going to be a very powerful place to be able to learn that and to hear about that stuff. So, where can people go to sign up for the course, for the workshop?
People can go to my website, so thehealingprocess.com.au. They can go to my website and go to Work With Me page. And on that page, they will find a listing of, there's a button that actually says upcoming workshops, like current workshops. Okay. And through that, they can book and register for the workshop.
Great. And what date is it? Yeah. What date?
It's on Thursday, the 28th of December. So it's between Christmas and New Year. So the perfect time. A few days before New Year. It's a really, really good time to really stop and pause and take stock. I think it's just energetically, it's such a beautiful and powerful time. So, I know this might feel a little bit woo-woo because I know you say woo-woo. But it's that thing for me. I feel like, we work with what's around us too. We work with the energies, and there's something quite powerful around that time of year, because it is a time to pause, and reflect on the past before the new begins. So I think it's quite a powerful time to be doing a process like this as well.
Yeah, no, it is a great time to do it. And that time between Christmas and New Year is very quiet. There's not... things do seem to slow down, and so it's a perfect time to do that.
There's a pause.
Yeah, no, it's really great. So Faith, you've said some... you've just come with the fire today. You've come with some amazing stuff, and I'm sure I'm going to get people asking me how that, where they can go to work with you. While you're in London, are you going to be working with anybody at all? Are you going to have any spaces for people to work with you, or one-on-one?
Look, I haven't confirmed a venue yet, but I am open to do some one-on-ones. I have a couple of clients that I see when I'm in London anyway, so I am open to do some one-on-ones. But if people are interested, just go to the website and they can send me an email, or they can book a one-on-one session directly from my website. Great. That would be the best thing. But the good thing is too, once they can also, I would love to do some work with people in London as well via Skype.
Okay.
So I will be setting up my system so that I can work and see clients. And there's a couple of clients I work with who are London based, and I work with them on Skype. So I'd really, if people are interested in working with me more, I'd really love to do that.
That's awesome. Faith, I can't thank you enough for your generosity that you shared with us today on the show, and I can't wait for people to hear this interview. It's going to be I've got so much out of it, and I know that there's going to be people that are going to get a lot out of it. It was very, very powerful, and I'm just so grateful that you've spent the time today to connect. And I've just got so much respect for you, and just chatting with you today has just been a really empowering time. So thank you so much for taking the time. So final words?
Oh my God. I don't know what. I always think a parting word, be kind to yourself. Honestly, to me, everything comes back to that. Okay? So for most people, they're not ready yet to love themselves. Okay? But just for today, be kind to yourself.
Wow, that's really powerful. For all the listeners out there, we're going to be, I'm going to make sure that all the show notes and everything are updated with all of Faith's details, the website and everything. So just go there and you'll find everything that you need. So I hope to see you all at the workshop. Yeah?
Just before I finish too, I'm on my resource section of my website. There's 4 guided meditations led by myself.
Oh, brilliant.
And that I recorded some of the classes that I did. So, if you want to kind of get a taste of my, flavour of my meditation, just go on there, have a look. There's a body scan one. that just is specifically good for people working with trauma, just coming back into the body. And there's some really basic, simple mindfulness breathing practice as well. Okay, so that's on my website. And, you listen to that for free at any time.
Oh, excellent. I'm going to download those myself as soon as we go off this call. I'll be downloading those. So yeah, so you can get, again, they'll all be in the show notes, all the links and everything. So thank you, Faith. I really appreciate it. So take care, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you.
Greetings, family. It's June. Let's get honest for a minute. Are you secretly struggling with low self-esteem? Is your negative thinking keeping you small? Would you like more confidence to share your black girl magic? I have 7 days of revolutionary black self-love. It's a free audio email course to show you some simple ways to love on your blackness. Go to www.blackselflove7.juneallen.net. Build your blackalicious life. Be empowered.